and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a crash with injuries northbound I-15 in Davis County as you're approaching the Center Street exit in Clearfield. 2 right lanes are blocked. We've got about a mile or so of backup setting in. Murdoch Auto Team is celebrating 100 years of winter journeys at Murdoch Chevrolet. Right now, take up to $6,500 off a 2025 Silverado or up to $9,000 off a new Suburban. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Temperatures in the mid to high 30s over the next 2 days, and on Saturday there's a chance of snow. The temps will drop into the low 30s as we head into next week. Right now it's partly cloudy and 35 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your co-host, Rusty Cannon, here with Adam Gardner. I'm the president of the Utah Credit Union Association. Adam, founding partner at ASG Consulting. Adam, it's been a bit of time. Good to be back with you again.
Yeah, same.
We have a lot going on. Unfortunately, our first topic is not a good one. The devastating fires burning near Los Angeles continue to grow today. The Santa Ana winds continue to whip, and we've seen pictures of that, video of that. It's been very devastating. Thousands and thousands of folks have been on evacuation notices. Thousands of buildings have been destroyed. We believe the number is now above 2,000 structures that have been destroyed. Los Angeles County and city officials have rolled out new details on the multiple fires burning through the area today. Unfortunately, at least 5 people have been reported dead so far, and they believe that number will rise. Tens of thousands of residents are under evacuation orders, and a lot of things we're learning. Adam, I have lost count of the number of fires now. It's obviously they talked a lot about the Palisades fire area. They still don't know how this started. It could have been just any number of reasons. All kinds of investigators combing the area. Obviously, that's probably a little bit secondary, but now more and more fires continue to pile up. I believe there's even concerns about another one this morning.
Well, and I don't think a lot of people realize, and I didn't until I actually have toured some of these wildfire places. If you, not the ones in California, but those that have happened in Utah, if you have these fires that are burning out of control and you have winds, these winds are 31 to 34 miles an hour. So really windy
it's bad
for fire conditions, especially when it's dry, when there's drought. And these embers that ignite will fly 2 miles away from the fire and will just randomly set a house on fire. What some of the images that have been really crazy to me that I've been scrolling through social media is these embers are going through the air and they're catching these dry palm trees that line every street on
they're
fire.
everywhere. Yeah.
And those things are just smoldering and burning, and then the ash from the palm trees are spewing off and onto roofs. And so I've seen a lot of images and videos of neighbors and friends and families and homeowners that are on top of their roof with garden hoses, and they're spraying down their roof to make sure it doesn't catch on fire and trying to spray it at these palm trees. And the images that are coming out of the desperation, you and I saw on News Nation just a little bit ago, something flashed across the screen where they found someone who had died with holding their garden hose trying to save their house. So the images that are coming out are just horrific.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been in Southern California enough to ever experience the Santa Ana winds.
Yes. Brutal.
I believe one time I was there feeling the effects of it, but these are intense, dry, like very dry and very warm winds. So you think about not even just a minor fire becoming just essentially a hurricane of fire, as some of these gusts are now reported up to 100 miles an hour, where it just is basically a blowtorch. And it just, like you said, it spreads embers, spreads the fire, you lose complete control, and unfortunately we're seeing picture after picture of not only structures destroyed, but now even sections of neighborhoods and towns that are just, it's a little bit apocalyptic.
I think Palisades is somewhere like 80% completely gone.
Wow.
These homes that have completely just evaporated. Some of the social media posts I've seen from KSL's weather team that have posted before and after pictures have been just absolutely brutal, horrible to watch. So you have a total of 21 officials, including 16 arson investigators, plus one dog that is trained to sniff out fire accelerant. They're on the case. And in the Palisades fire, you have 180,000 plus people that have been evacuated. What the images that are really stark, you mentioned the word apocalyptic, and I think that's really appropriate because you're seeing LA is also, they have winds and dry and drought, but they also have horrible traffic. So coming off of these mountains where all these homes are built, they really only have one ingress and egress. I mean, there's one way to get out of these towns. And so what's happening is everyone's given the order to evacuate, and most of them leave at the exact same time. And the traffic is just at a standstill. Well, these walls of flame that are 150, 200 feet high are so hot, so intense, that as they're starting to come down the mountain, you can see that you're not going to be able to make it out. So people are just getting out of their cars and just running with their whatever possessions they can carry, or their kids or whatever, just running down the mountain trying to outrun this fire. There was an interview that I caught. They just stopped a man on the street who was going into cars, trying to move cars. And it was the actor Steve Guttenberg. He was just trying to help. And so they asked him, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "If you are going to leave your car, don't take your keys with you. Leave your keys in the car."
They've been using dozers to get them out of the way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're pushing all these cars out of the way. And so Steve Guttenberg, the actor, is actually, they've all lost their homes, and he's there helping, which I thought was pretty cool and admirable of him. And they're just getting in random people's cars and moving them out of the way so fire trucks can get up the mountain. But we've also seen a problem, Rusty, with access to water.
Yeah. There's been stories about water literally running out. And there'll be a lot of finger pointing, I think, as things start to calm down. But you do ask the question of, were the reservoirs full? Were things put in place to where, so I've actually lived in an area before where fire suppression would be done with a tank that was near these homes. And you better believe the owner did a very good militant job of making sure that tank was always, always, always full, because on the 0.5% or 0.1% chance that a devastating fire starts, you better not run out of water with your fire hydrants. Now, I don't know the logistical, situation of reservoirs in Southern California, but there have been reports and already a little bit of finger pointing of, okay, why are they running out of water? Were you not prepared for something as devastating as this? I think it's a valid question. I think maybe it's a little bit early to start pointing fingers, but this opens up a lot of questions of not only reservoirs, but also water flow into California, in and out, from the mountains out to the ocean. All of that's coming into play already. But the destruction is pretty serious. Let's listen to ABC's reporter Jacqueline Lee with some news.
Dozens and dozens of homes are no longer standing. And I mean, just the depth of the destruction that we're finally seeing, now that some of the smoke has gone away and it's safer to get closer, is just so heartbreaking for so many people.
One thing I want to mention too, after we've seen and heard of all these structures that are going down, it's not fire season in Utah. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, we get hit pretty hard in the summer. I don't think we were hit as hard as we could have been last year. But in total, 64 personnel were deployed from 17 different agencies with 15 fire engines and 5 additional overhead trucks and one mechanic that are all making their way down to the fires in Southern California, which I think is awesome. I was talking to Mayor Dirk Burton from West Jordan this morning, and I had a very early morning meeting, and he came in and said we were just saying goodbye to all of the firefighters that are going into this blaze, which I thought was really cool. So the agencies that are involved are Salt Lake, South Jordan, Unified Fire Authority, West Valley, Weber Fire District, Lone Peak, Draper, Orem, West Jordan, Sandy, Murray, Provo, Cedar City, Utah County Fire Department, North Tooele, Moab Valley, Woodland Hills, all making the trek.
That's a good list. That's pretty cool. That's neat to see Utah stepping up. All right, keep up to date on the devastating fires in Southern California with the KSL News Radio app. On our app, you can get breaking news, push notifications, listen live to KSL, and listen to on demand with your favorite KSL podcasts. Maybe this one, right? And download it and start using it today. Just text the word app to 57500. All right. Next on Inside Sources, we're going to do some updates today with President-elect Donald Trump and congressional reconciliation. This is going to be a hot topic soon. We'll discuss it next.
The newest part of your morning and still so familiar.
When you wake up and listen to a radio show, it's like you're a part of a family. You're listening in on people you know, and it's magnificent that Andy Farnsworth is sitting in the chair because he's someone we know.
Utah's Morning News. Andy Farnsworth joins Amanda Dixon to bring you important news in the car. 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Boy, right after the holidays, everyone needs a little cash, right?
Oh, yes.
We have great news for you. Right now, UCCU, Utah Community Credit Union, will pay you for your auto loan and credit balances. So all you have to do is just transfer your auto loan or your credit card balance to UCCU. And on top of giving you a low interest rate, which will save you money, UCCU will give you 1% cash back up to $250 on every loan you transfer.
Amanda, as soon as I heard about this, I said, I'm in this exact situation. I actually had to have 2 loans to get my car a year ago. Yeah. Long story. Got it consolidated into one, and they paid me 1% back for each thing. I've got 1 payment now instead of 2. It's so much easier, and it took me maybe basically an hour. I just went straight to the website. I applied. They said, you got to send me these documents. I did, and all of a sudden, within a couple of days, I had it all set.
This is how easy they are to work with, always looking for ways to help you and your family. You can find out more on the UCCU mobile banking app or just go to uccu.com/transfer. Utah Community Credit Union. You're going to love where you bank.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, so we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history
Cherie Warren disappeared.
are now together for free at KSLPodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files. Season 2, Justice for Joyce. And Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at KSLPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
My daughter, she's 2. My wife, Meriden, we did it together because we want to be around a long time for her.
Every single day, people are losing weight and keeping it off with Soda Weight Loss, improving their health, their quality of life.
I would recommend this program to anybody. Anybody can do it.
For the month of January, Soda Weight Loss is offering a new client partner program. Join with a partner, a friend, someone you love for the cost of one.
Tried everything from fasting to every diet. Kept hearing about Soda Weight Loss. So what they did was give me a plan to lose the weight. It came with a nutritionist, came without drugs or pills or shots or side effects.
What are you waiting for? Get started with Soda Weight Loss right now with a partner and only pay for one.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? Because Soda Weight Loss works.
Visit sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair? Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $38.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. We've had an injury accident in Davis County, blocking 2 right lanes of traffic northbound I-15, Center Street, Clearfield. And with those 2 right lanes blocked, we have delays for about 2 miles, approximately 2 miles of solid backups. Now, the good news is they are starting to clear away a lot of this crash, and some of the emergency crews are leaving. Hopefully, they'll have those right lanes opened any minute now. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
People think saving money is hard, but really, it's easy. It's as simple as changing a few spending habits. For free tips on how to save the easy way, check out feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Rusty Cannon. With just a week and a half to go until inauguration, President-elect Donald Trump is working with congressional Republicans to get his agenda ready to go. As we know, Rusty, just historically, we look at presidents, the first 100 days are the most critical to get something done. It seems that's when your mandate appears. It's right after the election. We call it your honeymoon period. So your first 100 days is really the big issue. And as part of that, we're going to be taking a deeper look at the budget, including reconciliation. And usually the term reconcile is this great term of just like kumbaya.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not what this is.
No, it's not it at all.
We're talking budget, like reconciling your books here. And so it's a lot more complicated, and there's a lot that goes into this. What reconciliation kind of boils down to, Rusty, you get into the nuts and bolts because you know way more about this than I do. But
well, you work there. You watch this unfold, right?
And it's really crazy. Before they do reconciliation, they have a thing called Votorama, which is really fun to watch. It's where you kind of have to, because you're opening up the budget, it opens up every amendment. You can run an amendment on anything.
Yeah.
And so for 24 straight hours, literally 4 a.m., 5 a.m., they're actually taking votes on amendments that are coming up. And so it gets really crazy. But what it kind of boils down to is we do not have enough, either side that plays this goes, we do not have 60 votes that are required or necessary in the Senate to actually make this happen. So we use a budget reconciliation process. So we only have to have a simple majority.
51 in the Senate, right? And this is what Democrats used just a few years ago to pass was 2 bills, right? If I forget which names are which, but you had was it the Build Back Better or the IRA?
Yeah, it was the IRA.
Yeah,
so,
the IRA, the Inflation
and you remember,
Reduction Act.
Democrats in 2009 used this to pass the ACA.
Correct.
So Obamacare
was done by reconciliation.
So no Republicans voted for it. They didn't have 60 votes for it in the Senate. So they used this. And then Republicans are like, hey, when we take charge, because you guys did this, we're going to do this, and you're going to hate it. And that happened. And so it was done on the budget, the tax cuts.
Yes,
for
that's the
the American jobs and tax cuts.
Yep, that was done via reconciliation. In order to fit into the mold that you have to have for that, these cuts had to expire. And now we're coming up on that expiration at the end of 2025. So now the question is, do they do this all at once or they break it up into pieces? There was a 2-hour meeting last night with President-elect Trump on the Hill with the senators, I believe, after he paid his respects to President Carter there. And boy, would I've loved to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting. but it lasted for a couple of hours, and the topic, and there's been some decent reporting which we'll go through about it, was 1 bill or 2 bills, or what are we going to do? Adam, what came out of that meeting?
Well, and I don't think to picture these meetings, it's not this room full of staffers everywhere. I think this is just senators only. They're meeting kind of in a room where they just get to hammer everything out themselves. And so usually these meetings don't really leak about all the details and who said what.
Yeah.
Staffers love to leak that stuff. Some senators do, but mostly it stays in a pretty tight hold. So the president-elect said he wants one powerful bill. The way he says stuff is just hilarious.
It's one beautiful big
We want
bill.
one beautiful, powerful bill. It's going to be way better than this two. We don't want two things. It's easier
We're
to
on
count
radio.
to
You
one.
can't see Adam's hands, but he's doing a
But
really
I'm
good
doing
job.
his accordion. So President-elect Donald Trump was pushing for one beautiful, powerful bill, but I think the senators are not on board to have that happen. So I think they're looking at actually just having one. Or excuse me, they want two. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he's the original architect of the 2-bill strategy. And he really hasn't come off that position, even though Speaker Johnson is really – I think he sees a lot of trouble in the House. He only has a couple votes that could go either way. So he's really trying just one bill. Like, I kind of got one shot at this.
Yeah.
And the Senate's saying, no, we don't like that process. And MAGA world does not like these omnibus bills. And they say it also. I hate omnibus bills, but an omnibus bill is a budget. Like it's kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
But these are not going to be. You're going to have border issues in here. You're going to have tax cuts and Jobs Act issues in here. And are you going to put the debt ceiling in this as well?
That's the other big question, because I mentioned this while we were preparing for the show. I am curious as to when. I don't think it's a matter of if. I think it's a matter of when President Trump and his administration run square up against the House Freedom Caucus. Right? Because he is going to ask them to do things they do not want to do.
He already has. He wanted the debt ceiling raised.
Exactly.
And he was trying to make them.
Yeah,
and it didn't happen.
And I think at one point he is going to say, you're walking the plank whether you like it or not. And it'll just be interesting to see how that unfolds because, like you say, one big, beautiful bill, however you want to put it, we know this from working on whether it's state legislation or in D.C., the more stuff you put into a bill, the more weight it has and the more problems you can create. Sometimes they die, by the weight of their, die a death by their own weight. And you just gather more and more enemies the more garbage you put into a bill or more stuff you put in. And just a good, simple one-subject type of bill typically passes or fails a lot easier than some big mess.
So why do you add stuff into these bills?
Well, because there can be incentives the other way, right? Meaning I don't like points A, B, and C, but Adam, you throw in point D that I do really, really want. So am I going to roll over on A, B, and C to get D?
Yeah.
And so there's a valid point.
And
as
every
to why
bill, you're
going to
hate every bill that goes through Congress, by the way, because they're all awful.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the sausage making process is you just have to put all these things in there. And so I think what you're going to see is some of that same issue that you're talking about is what's important to my state. We've talked about like the SALT exemptions for
state and local tax.
State and local taxes. That's a big deal to rich people in California and New York and Oregon and a lot of blue states. So you want to get the Republicans from New York to vote for this bill. So you're going to actually kind of cave on SALT stuff, which is really important for Utah or other states or just fiscal hawks.
Correct.
And so you have to balance that out. What can I put in here to get all of my friends on board? And what is the tipping point to where I start to lose some of them?
Senator Lindsey Graham made a great case coming out of this meeting. He's the budget chair now in the Senate, and he had a pretty compelling argument for two bills and saying, hey, I think by February 17th, I could have it on Trump's desk, what he calls the most transformational border security bill in American history and increase military spending. Talking about making the Navy bigger and more lethal and all of that, having it done. His point being, hey, you guys in the House can kind of just mess around for a bit. We could have this great, I'd say, skinnier bill on border and military and all to the president's desk by February 17th, and then we'll deal with the tax cuts later. And he has a point. The tax cuts do not expire till the end of the year. However, if we do remember in 2017, guess when they passed those tax cuts? It was at the very, very, very end of the year. I literally think it was
really?
If I remember right, it was right at the end. And so Congress has a way of messing things up. The worry is that if we kick the can down the road, then they just start tripping up.
And Lindsey Graham said if you hold border security hostage to get tax cuts, you're playing Russian roulette with our national security. And he's making an argument like, I want to handle the border stuff first before we do tax cuts, and then you're going to have some fiscal folks, especially on the House side, who want to do the tax cut stuff first, and then you're going to have other people that are just fiscal hawks and don't want to spend money.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter the more stuff you put in there, the less likely they are to vote for this bill. It's going to be a really fun process to watch. Just
crazy.
as we're nerds. And so, we're not involved in this process at all, but we sure like watching it, and we think it's going to be a pretty fun next couple of weeks. So when we talk reconciliation, this is going to be a big deal coming up, and so hopefully you're kind of you have some armor of what your positions are when you talk to your friends. When Inside Sources returns, we're going to stick at our nation's capital and take a deeper dive into Congress. When the midterms roll around in 2026, which senators are going to be most at risk? That discussion is coming up next.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top and local story. Thousands of firefighters are still battling multiple wildfires today in Los Angeles. President Biden is being briefed on that situation.
President Biden Thursday afternoon will bring together senior White House and administration officials for a briefing on the federal response to the wildfires across Los Angeles. The president approved a major disaster declaration for California, which allows victims of the fire to immediately access funds and resources. It also provides funding to state and local governments to cover the costs of fighting the fires and the cleanup. President Biden was scheduled to travel to Rome today, but canceled the trip due to the fires. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Meantime, a couple dozen Utah firefighters are headed to help out with the Palisades fire. A man is in the hospital following an officer-involved shooting in Salt Lake City this morning. It happened just before 2 after an officer pulled someone over for a traffic violation near 375 South and 765 West. arrest. Salt Lake Police Detective Michael Ruff says a 32-year-old man not involved in the stop approached the officer and pulled out a weapon. He says that's when the officer fired at least one shot.
Our officer had to take very quick action. It was a very dynamic event, so we're thankful that no one was injured besides the individual who produced the weapon.
Ruff says the man was taken to the hospital with critical injuries. Coming up, cold and a chance of storms this weekend. We'll check the forecast and a look at your drive coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair? Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $38.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Bear Lake provides an experience that every family member can enjoy, whether it's snowmobiling, snowshoeing, ice fishing, or just cozying up by the fire. Bear Lake in the winter is a great escape with your family. Dive into 3 of the most beautiful cross-country and snowshoeing trails in Utah. Play on 350 miles of backcountry snowmobile trails. Or try your hand at ice fishing. Bear Lake is where memories are made and joy is shared. Visit bearlake.org and make your vacation plans today. And don't forget,
The monster is coming, and it wants you and your family.
and that's great news, really, because it's time for the Bear Lake Monster Winterfest, January 24th and 25th. Winterfest is all about an incredible celebration of winter and all the fun it brings. Cisco Disco, Monster Plunge, Monster 5K, the Chili Cook-Off, Trails Day, and a cardboard boat regatta. Bear Lake awaits. Visit BearLakeMonsterWinterfest.com for pre-registration times and locations.
Imagine a currency that has true value. A currency that's local, protects your wealth, and resists inflation. Now imagine that currency is anchored to the stability of gold. Introducing Goldbacks, a currency made of 24-karat gold, accepted at over 800 businesses in Utah. Don't just imagine it. Visit alpinegold.com to start spending in gold. Use promo code RADIO to get free shipping on orders of over $200 or more.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. We do have an emergency traffic situation. Ricky Meese, what's going on?
This is in Davis County, northbound I-15, an injury accident in Clearfield approaching Center Street. 2 right lanes are still blocked, and we have 2 solid miles of backups with delays reaching into Layton. If you want to consider an alternate route, think about Highway 89 as your option. When you take UTA, you can do just about anything while you ride. You won't even notice all the traffic you're missing. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Taking a look at the forecast for the Wasatch Front, temperatures staying pretty cold, but clear skies over the next couple of days. And then the chance of storms, the best chance is on Saturday, 40% chance now on Saturday, 30% chance on Sunday. Right now, 36 degrees at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm your co-host, Rusty Cannon, here with Adam Gardner. Adam, I'm sure you know the conversations that took place about 1 minute after midnight on Election Day are similar to conversations that I was even part of yesterday about the next election. Believe it or not, it starts, as you know, immediately, if not even before the election finishes. But there are already conversations going on. You better believe in Utah as well as anywhere else about the congressional seats in 2026, about governor in 2028, because Governor Cox said this is it for him. That will be a very entertaining, wide open race. You have any other legislative seats or whatever. Those conversations start way before everybody thinks they do, right? And so I've already been, hearing. It's entertaining to hear everybody's opinions and all. We're going to focus in this segment on senators across the country. But Adam, I'd ask you the question. I assume you're also hearing these very same conversations.
I'm not kidding when I say probably twice a week, 3 times a week, we'll sit down at a lunch meeting or something, and someone's bringing it up.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, who's running in 2028? What
Yeah.
names are you hearing?
Yeah.
And you have kind of two different perspectives on this. One, it's like, I don't care. It's so far away.
Yeah, we just finished. Can
In
we have a minute?
legislative years, that's like 2 decades away. Like we're not focusing on that. I'm not focusing on the next election at all, the next midterm, whatever. So I'm not thinking about that, but it's also super fun to talk about. And if you have folks that are really gearing up, we're talking about spending multi-millions of dollars on this race.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you're going to be talking about it. And that takes some planning and some thinking. And so there's always these internal discussions of how quickly do I announce? Back in the day, in the 1960s, Barry Goldwater, he announced that he was running for president more than a year before the election. And he apologized in his speech that it was like so early. And now we're doing it 2 years in advance.
At least 2 years. Yeah.
And we've already heard like Kamala Harris is putting her team back together and
Please
having,
do.
having
Come on back for more.
having initial conversations. And other Republicans are doing the same. And so, J.D. Vance is going to be working on it as well through these next couple of years.
Yeah.
And people are starting to lock down, those that are running for the House are locking down campaign managers and fundraisers and PAC money. And so you're playing all of these games incredibly early. And I was surprised, though. It's usually behind the scenes. This is usually talked about. Podcasts will talk about it. It's really not out in the mainstream, but Roll Call came out with an article that is already looking at 2026 and how the Senate landscape is going to change. And that goes back to our last segment of we're talking about you actually have to get a lot of this stuff done in your first 100 days or your first year at least, because after that, everyone's gearing up for the midterms and things are going to change. Everything gets a lot more political.
Yeah, you think 2 years. No. You do not have 2 years because so here we are, January of 2025. 1 year from now, like let's use Utah as an example. Once we get into February of 2026, basically a year from now, what do we have? We have Lincoln Day dinners for all the parties,
oh my gosh,
and the Republican primary, and then the convention cycle kicking off. That is only 1 year from now, and that would play into the congressional seats, obviously legislative ones too. But let's just focus on the federal side of things. Already, we don't have. Losing track of time already. We do not have a Senate seat up in 26 in Utah, right?
Right.
Yeah, we just okay. That's right. 2028 and 2030, I think, are our next ones. But congressional seats will be started to be thought about. This is only 12 months from now. So legislatively in D.C., you think, okay, we get through to September. September, they got to lock the budget down if they're going to actually follow regular order and get a budget done by the end of the fiscal year in September and kind of get everything buttoned up in September. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you go into the holiday season. You can still do stuff obviously through the end of the year, but then we get back to a year from now when you're already preparing for, in Utah at least, the convention cycle and followed by primary cycles for the midterms. Time is extremely short. So this article starts talking about the United States Senate and who's up. One that is first named in there, Susan Collins from Maine. She says she's going to seek a 6th term. How many terms did Orrin Hatch serve?
He served for 42 years.
So that's way more than 6, right? Yeah. So, but she's been there quite a long time. She's going to be running. She'll be running in a state that was won by Kamala Harris. This is
that was 6 terms.
It was at 6 terms.
Orrin Hatch served 6 terms.
6 terms. Okay. Yeah. So she's been there a very long time, but she's got some serious armor on. She has survived a lot, and
the Democrats spent $100 million to defeat her. last time.
And didn't work.
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
She won.
Yeah, and I think she will win again.
Republicans need to keep her seat.
Correct.
But Democrats are going to be out for blood next time.
Exactly. I mean, there are issues when Susan Collins drives some Republicans absolutely nuts. But I remember, was it Kavanaugh?
Yeah.
She voted for Kavanaugh. I totally remember that, and I'll always respect her and love her for that. But there's other issues at times where she will sort of make some Republicans mad. But she is so, I think, strategic about how she has, positioned her principles that she is very difficult to beat. And I would think it'd be another waste of another $100 million. So go ahead and try. And then it does mention as well Georgia. Obviously, Trump won in Georgia. It looks like Democrat Gary Peters and John Ossoff, if I'm saying that last name right, they're up for re-election. So
yeah, Gary Peters is from Michigan.
Sorry, Michigan and Georgia.
And man,
yeah.
Republicans should have beat him last time. He is the most boring guy. Like, I don't know how that guy is still stuck around. John Ossoff, he's a young liberal guy from Georgia. He came, very famously, Republicans lost both of those seats after Donald Trump lost and played in the Georgia elections and really turned off a lot of Republicans. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, he voted to impeach Donald Trump the second go around. So he's going to be a target. And Trump won his state by 3 points, but I don't think that's going to translate in his race. It's going to be totally a free-for-all, and who's going to win him. And so Democrats, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who was named chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee on Monday, she talked up her party's chances and said, "I'm confident that we will protect Democratic seats, mount strong challenges in our battleground states." Yada, yada, yada. You're going to say that stuff every time, no matter what, right? Yeah. And so we ought to take a look at actual races that are going to tip the tide one way or the other.
Some interesting ones due to changes. You have Ohio and Florida, right? Because you have J.D. Vance stepping out, and then he will be obviously replaced by a Republican. But then I believe that person would then be up in 26.
That's right.
So that's a seat that Democrats could go after. I would think Ohio, with that area, would be a safe Republican seat, but you never know. And then Marco Rubio, obviously leaving the Senate to become Secretary of State. He'll be filled by a Republican that would also be up in 2026. And I don't know if I'd bet any money of my own saying that a Democrat could then win that Senate seat in Florida right now. Florida just seems way too red.
You're going to have Mark Warner of Virginia, Tina Smith of Minnesota, Lujan of New Mexico, Cory Booker of New Jersey. They're going to be playing some hardcore defense here. And I mean, I don't think we're going to take out Cory Booker. Like, doesn't seem like that's going to happen in New Jersey, but you never know.
Be fun to try.
It's going to be fun to try, and there's going to be, what I hate to see is when it's just billions of dollars are spent on campaign cycle and then everything stays exactly the same. Yeah. A seat here and a seat there. And we see this a lot of times in Utah, where we spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on these legislative races. We don't spend millions of dollars on one legislative race, but I'm talking cumulatively on both sides. And then it's usually one or two seats make the difference every single time. And so they're fighting so hard over just these one or two seats.
Yes. There is just a lot of – and then we're also going to – in fact, in the next segment, we'll talk about someone who is retiring, a specific senator, but we also have retirements that could come into play. Richard Durbin of Illinois, he turned 80 in November, second-ranked Democrat in the chamber. He's filed for re-election, but he's not formally announced that he's running. And there's other examples. And then obviously you have Mitch McConnell. I would assume he's done. I didn't know this. Jim Risch of Idaho is 81 years old. I didn't realize that. I know him. He's a great guy, but man, I didn't realize he was 81. All right. Next on Inside Sources, we're going to keep talking about the United States Senate and focus on one senator in particular who just retired. You're going to recognize his name. We'll be right back.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Eye Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacin-capted Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. Crews are still blocking 2 right lanes of traffic with this injury accident northbound I-15 near Center Street in Clearfield. If you're trying to get through this stretch of Davis County, the backups start about 2 miles prior to the crash in Layton. If you want to avoid the delays, Highway 89 might be your better option. Ricky Meese, the KSL Traffic Center.
Can we talk about something difficult to discuss? Are you going through a difficult financial time? You have equity in your home, but nobody can help? American Home Loans has created the Bridge Loan Program to use your equity regardless of your credit at this time. The Bridge Loan can be used to pay debts, collections, IRS liens, divorce settlements, or home improvements. Call at 801-262-2221. That's 262-2221. This loan creates a bridge between now and a much brighter future. After COVID, one of their clients had over $85,000 in credit cards. Their scores were too low to borrow on their home. American Home Loans was able to save them $2,000 a month. And after 8 months, they qualified for a conventional loan and lowered their payments. The consultation is free and confidential. Please call them and see what they can do for you. The number is 801-262-2221. It's 262-2221, or go to AmericanHomeLoans.com. AmericanHomeLoans.com. NMLS 245422, Equal Housing Lender.
If you're struggling with missing or broken teeth or painful dentures, you're not alone. Countless people face these challenges, but you don't have to suffer any longer. It's time to rediscover the confidence of a full, healthy smile with Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's best of state winner. At Stubbs Dental, they understand how your missing teeth can hold you back in your career, social life, even in love. But it doesn't have to be that way. Their team of experts transforms lives with dental implants, one smile at a time. Imagine what a new smile could do for you. Thousands have turned to Stubbs Dental for dental implants, gaining more than just teeth. They've regained their self-confidence. And the best part? Finding out if you're eligible for dental implants is easy. Visit StubbsDental.com. And in just 60 seconds, you could be on your way to a life-changing smile. Don't wait any longer to take the first step towards the life you deserve. Visit StubbsDental.com, StubbsDental.com today.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a walk-up with central air and a skylight, and you found it. Now, every Friday night, you get to fall asleep to the sound of your downstairs neighbors' dance parties. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, really? That's great.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
I can't have any more? Why not?
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Happening now, we're watching different news feeds of President Jimmy Carter has landed in Georgia, and he's been loaded onto the hearse and is heading to the cemetery. And it was just kind of reminding me of when I was a kid in 2004, Ronald Reagan died. And I was actually...
I'm old. You were a kid in 2004?
I was a kid. I was just a wee lad. I was a junior in high school, and I was serving as a Senate page for the United States Senate. And I was sponsored by Orrin Hatch and Bob Bennett. And so they take a bunch of just 16 and 17-year-old kids out to D.C. We live in D.C. In a dorm. And they actually are kind of the pages, the staff inside the Senate, and they just run errands kind of thing. And so I did that in high school. And while I was there, Ronald Reagan died. And it was really cool as a kid that loved history and politics and presidents. I got to actually work. I was one of 5 pages that got to work the rotunda service that they did for Ronald Reagan while he was laying in state at the rotunda. And so I got to do that. That was an amazing experience. We got to go as pages around his casket really, really early, like 5, 6 in the morning when nobody was there. That was a really cool opportunity. And then we got tickets. This is what was crazy to me, the head of our page program. She came in, talked to all the kids on a Friday night and said, we have tickets if you want to go to Andrews Air Force Base and watch as Reagan flies back to California after the funeral. And only 5 of us wanted to go.
Really?
And so there were 5 of us that went to Andrews Air Force Base, and we got to see the 21-gun salute with the cannons and this funeral procession and the honor guard. And there was maybe 100 people there. It was really, really cool, and we got to watch them, take his casket out of the hearse and load it onto Air Force One and fly off. Really cool opportunity, and so a lot of those memories are kind of flooding back as we take a look at the funeral for Jimmy Carter. We want to go over to kind of sticking in Washington, D.C., but one of the senators that's retiring, we just talked about the ones that are going to be up in 2026, is Democratic Senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. And he kind of made a name for himself as bucking his party, bucking the Republicans, bucking his state sometimes. And because of that, I think we kind of owe a segment at least to talk about what his legacy might be.
Yeah, now, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2024, he actually left the Democratic Party and became an independent.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, based on, I think, just kind of where he stood. And I thought there was an interesting article that we caught today that talked about one thing that he really dug in on. So if we remember back in COVID, there was a lot of legislation that came out of COVID as far as stimulus checks and things to try to help out, Americans. And you might remember some of those big bills. So I'm going to quote a little bit from this article that talks about what Joe Manchin did. So the stimulus law provided child tax credit checks, and everyone will remember this, from the IRS to non-working adults for the first time. It also gave non-working adults the same large monthly benefit that working parents received, temporarily eliminating the program's long-standing work requirement and work incentive features. Now some people on the left were happy about that. There were quotes actually saying, "Goodbye Clinton welfare reform, hello child tax credit." If everybody remembers, Bill Clinton signed into law a generation before the work requirements on all this. But under the stimulus law, those changes applied only in 2021. And when President Biden's subsequent Build Back Better proposal called for continuing the welfare expansion while eliminating the child tax credit's work requirement forever, Manchin dug in. So explaining his objections, he said this, quote, "There's no work requirements whatsoever. Don't you think if we're going to help children that the people should make some effort?" Unquote. So lacking his support, Build Back Better collapsed, and the child tax credit returned to the former policy where there were work requirements and work incentives in it. And then in his December 3rd farewell address, he highlighted his career-long focus on the importance of work. The American dream, he said, is, quote, "about freedom, opportunity, and the belief that if you work hard and play by the rules, you can build a good life." He added that able-bodied people who fall on hard times don't need a continuous handout, but a hand up to get back in life's game. And then echoing Ronald Reagan, he said, "I believe the greatest gift you can give someone when they're struggling is a job. It's not just about earning a paycheck. It's about dignity, purpose, and hope that goes with it." Unquote. So I thought, Adam, that was really, really cool to see that again highlighted in an article. I missed that he said all that when he was giving his farewell address. I obviously wasn't tuning in. But I totally forgot about that battle, and this was a good reminder of what he stood up for and brings back that debate of work requirements.
He also, he could be credited along with Kyrsten Sinema in Arizona for saving a lot of the institutions of the Senate. And I remember they were so hardcore about raising the minimum wage. They didn't want to raise the federal minimum wage inside a budget reconciliation. And they very famously said no and bucked their party. And a lot of Democrats were really ticked. I think the institution was better for what they did. But it reminded me a lot of, Mitt Romney had the same things when he did his transportation bill. It was $500 billion to fix crumbling bridges and infrastructure. And Utah here, we have 90 bridges being replaced, all from the funding from that bill. He was the only member of the Utah delegation that voted for it.
I remember that. I'm glad you brought that up. I totally forgot about that.
And it's kind of funny because he took a lot of heat for that.
He did.
And it was actually to get Manchin on board with this project instead of doing Build Back Better, which would have been $3 trillion. And so it was a real infrastructure bill. And it's just kind of funny that all the animosity toward Mitt Romney for voting for it. And then we see all these bridges being done and there's these ribbon cuttings and everyone shows up and is how great this project is. And so you just kind of have to take the good with the bad. But Joe Manchin was definitely one of those, kind of an enigma. You couldn't nail him down on anything.
Oh, he drove everybody crazy.
He drove Republicans crazy.
Yeah.
He drove Democrats crazy. He drove West Virginians crazy. But he did what he thought was right.
But they reelected him.
And he served as their governor.
Yeah, he was
a popular
quite
governor.
Yeah, and I just appreciated his talk about, or his words about, work requirements in a job. It gets to the other arguments that we hear in government a lot about incentives. Well, what do you think's going to happen if you take away the incentive for people to work? They're not going to work.
Yeah.
If you can get, in this case specifically, if you can get the same check for not working versus working, people are obviously going to be incentivized to not work, and that's wrong. And I really appreciate his words as well about the best way to help someone when they're really struggling is a job. I've been firsthand witness to unemployment, job loss, all of that, where it is not easy, and the benefit of a job is almost hard to quantify. To have a purpose, like you talked about, dignity, a purpose, and hope that comes along with it. I think that was great that he stood firm to make that stay in there. I'm curious what he does now. I honestly I haven't heard about what he's going to do. Rumors whether he'd run or not. I think he's sort of checked out of all of that.
He's also 77, so
yeah,
maybe
I think
he
he's
just
probably
goes,
ready
I'm going to stay
done.
on my houseboat in the Potomac and just
play some
hang
golf.
out.
Yeah, I hope he does. But I think it'll be interesting as books are written and history is retold about all that he did. It was just really fascinating to see him do that. Obviously, as a Republican, I was really happy that he stood up the way he did when he saved, it was the filibuster, he and Gillibrand. They ended up both not being booted, but leaving the Democrat
That was Sinema,
Party.
not
what did I say? Sorry, Sinema. Over that issue, there's another one that's slipping my mind. It was not just the filibuster. But how ironic is it now that if they would have gotten rid of that, Republicans would have free reign because they have 53 seats. It's like, you dummies, if you would have gotten rid of it, you would be totally regretting it right now.
It's funny because you have to pay attention to which side's going to be in power next, and you can't mess up your own side for your own purposes. So coming up in the second hour of Inside Sources, the Senate appears poised to move forward on a new immigration bill. We're going to talk about that next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top story is breaking news. Vail Resorts is now being sued over their handling of the recent ski patroller strike. The class action lawsuit alleges that skiers were not made aware of the strike before booking and spending tens of thousands of dollars at Park City Mountain. And when they showed up for their vacations, they were met with picketers, long lift lines, and limited terrain availability. The lawsuit asks for whatever relief the court sees fit. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. At least 2 people have been arrested in Los Angeles for allegedly looting burned properties. ABC's Matt Gutman spoke to the LAPD detective Gary Chamberlain in the hard-hit Pacific Palisades area.
There's really no way to police this area effectively right now. I mean, we're coming and going. We have very little communications, not enough people, and a lot of area to cover.
Chamberlain says it's hard to distinguish who is a looter and who is a resident. We've had an emergency traffic situation. We'll get an update from Ricky Meese coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm, A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their award-winning team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to end your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other IRS actions. Make sure you're getting the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima today for a free confidential consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Where can you kick off the new year with big savings on gig speed? Only with Xfinity. Now through January 16th, get gig internet at home for $25 a month for 1 year when you add an unlimited mobile line, which connects you with gig speed Wi-Fi on the road. Act fast today and save more than $650 over AT&T and Verizon in your first year. Plus, hurry and take advantage because right now you can also get a free 5G phone with trade-in. So save big and stay connected to what you love with fast gig speed internet and mobile from home to hotspots. This new year, it's all about gig speeds and big savings. Don't wait and get gig speed internet, spend less green, and switch to Xfinity. Go to xfinity.com/gig savings to learn more. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Equipment taxes and fees extra. $40 internet discount applied to mobile bill after promo. Regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary. Savings compared to Verizon Fiber Gig Plus 1 Unlimited Welcome Line and AT&T Fiber Gig Plus 1 Unlimited Starter Line. Xfinity internet required reduced speeds after 30 gigabytes of usage per line. Data thresholds and actual speeds vary.
Emergency traffic is brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. Let's get an update now. Here's Ricky Meese.
The crash remains, but it's in the clearing stages northbound I-15 Center Street, Clearfield. Only one right lane of traffic remains blocked at this time, but we still have about 1.5 miles of backups. If you're trying to get through Davis County on northbound I-15, you need to add an extra 10 to 15 minutes of extra travel time to get from Layton through Clearfield. At the Utah Auto Expo, we have a vehicle for almost everything, and we certainly have a vehicle for your thing. Mountain America Expo Center, the 17th through the 20th. AutoExpoUtah.com for tickets. News. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Few clouds over the next couple of days. The next best chance of showers on Saturday, where we have a 40% chance. Right now, 37 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources for our second hour. I'm your co-host, Rusty Cannon, here with Adam Gardner. Adam, we have an update on some legislation in Washington, D.C. I believe it just happened today. Many Democrats in the Senate have joined their Republican colleagues in voting to advance a bill. Now, this isn't voting on the bill yet, but voting to advance the bill in the Senate dealing with immigration called the Laken Riley Act. Even Senator Minority Leader now, Chuck Schumer, and Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin were among Democrats who voted in favor of cloture on the bill to move the bill forward. Adam, what is the Laken Riley Act?
Well, it was named after a 22-year-old nursing student who was murdered by an undocumented immigrant. And we remember the story. She was from Georgia, and she was attacked outside of her home. A horrific. We have recordings of like 911 calls and just a brutal murder. And that's why it got so much attention. And it seemed to be at the time a string of pretty heinous acts by those by undocumented folks in the United States, and so it just is bringing everything to the forefront. And so this was actually this bill was submitted last year. It didn't go anywhere, and it passed the House with a lot of Democrats jumping on board. And so in the act, there's some specific things that this bill does. The act requires that DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, to detain certain non-U.S. nationals referred to as aliens under federal law who have been arrested for theft-related crimes such as burglary, theft, larceny, shoplifting. This applies even if they are only charged with or arrested for these acts. So DHS has to detain them. One interesting thing it does, this is going to be, I think, the biggest bombshell that no one's talking. Well, people are talking about it, but it's not kind of mainstream yet. It actually authorizes state attorneys general to sue the federal government for injunctive relief if they believe immigration-related decisions or failures have caused harm to the state or its residents. That harm includes financial harm exceeding $100.
Well, okay.
So they set it intentionally low because they expect states to take advantage of this. They want it. There's a lot of bipartisan support for this. As we mentioned, it passed the House.
264 to 159.
That is as bipartisan as you're going to get in this type of Congress. And even John Fetterman, the famous progressive from that beat Dr. Oz from Pennsylvania.
Well, he ran as a progressive. What we're finding out is that he is anything but.
And he said that when he got in, he's like, maybe I'm not as progressive as I thought. And he's actually become very practical on some of these issues. And I watched a news clip of him yesterday, and he said, look, in the Senate, if Democrats defeat this thing, then we're staring in the mirror at why we lost these elections, because Americans want us to do something about it.
I'm assuming he was wearing his hoodie when he
was wearing a hoodie and
for those
shorts.
That don't know, this is the senator that walks around, that does it in the Capitol, right?
Yes.
In a hoodie and shorts most of the time, if not always.
I think like always.
I think it's his brand.
Staff has started to dress that way
his
too.
Staff does too?
I've seen some of the staffers be pretty casual. It's very weird. And when you're in D.C., everybody's in a dark suit, and that's kind of pops out.
I remember that ruffling feathers. He actually, this was another quote he said on Fox News. He said, quote, if you're here illegally and you're committing crimes, I don't know why anybody thinks that it's controversial, that they all need to go, unquote. Now, interestingly, another one that voted for it is, well, obviously just for cloture at this point, but Gallego, he just won in Arizona. I think he ran as a decent, I'd say a decent amount to the left. He said, quote, Arizonans know the real-life consequences of today's border crisis. We must give law enforcement the means to take action when illegal immigrants break the law to prevent situations like what occurred to Laken Riley. I will continue to fight for the safety of Arizonians by pushing for comprehensive immigration reform and increased border security. That is from a Democrat. So that is, just kind of a sign of the times. It's interesting to see this move forward. And as you mentioned, legislation has two main components. One part requires the Secretary of Homeland Security to issue a detainer, as you mentioned, for undocumented immigrants arrested for or convicted of burglary, theft, or shoplifting, or you said even charged. The other part lets, as you mentioned, the states sue the federal government if we feel that we can get Derek Brown on the phone and see if we could.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
We got to have him the new Attorney General for the state of Utah.
Yeah, and so now Democrat support for the bill comes to the consternation of immigration advocates who are saying the measure would have a negative impact on immigrant families in the United States. But correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, at this point, if they have voted for cloture, this thing will pass. I think the cloture vote was 84-9, I think you said. And
that's right, 84-9.
That is going to pass, and I'm just curious now, would that be signed by President Biden or President Trump?
If they get it to his desk before the 20th, then it would be President Biden. And I'm just thinking politically here for a legacy. It'd actually be really smart of Biden to sign this thing really quickly, and he'll take credit. I did something for immigration. So I actually think it'd be a brilliant move on his part to sign it really quickly. But if not, he can either do a pocket veto, let it sit for 10 days or whatever, and we would get into that realm of it would be President Trump that comes in to sign that. So if they pass this thing quickly, which it sounds like they're going to, if they've already done cloture this fast, we could see tomorrow them voting on the actual bill.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm just curious, your opinion, is this because of the change since the election, right? Meaning the results of the election, writing on the wall, I don't know if this would have passed a few months ago.
I don't think it would have passed a couple months ago. And the reason is because of the election. Everyone was trying to make this an issue, and everything that you were going to do on Capitol Hill would have affected the election. That's over. It's done. Everybody knows what's going to be happening for the next 2 years. They know who's in charge. But it also kind of just goes to show that maybe this bill isn't as, it's not as far, this far right.
No,
we're going
it's
after
common sense.
It seems like they're putting just a lot of common sense stuff in here.
Yeah.
And when you have the majority of the Democratic Party going, yeah, we can get on board with this stuff. If we're just going after criminals here, yep, we're on board with that. Yeah. And so the next step is going to be, after we deport these people, they're coming back to commit crimes. I mean, we just had some heinous crimes in Utah committed, some gang members from South American, Central American countries that are being deported, and they're coming right back. And it's been so bad that the governor of the state of Utah, Governor Cox, has actually requested that they get rid of our immigration enforcement folks from the federal government in the state of Utah. Get somebody new.
That's right.
Here.
The other day he called for them to be fired, if I remember right? To be let go.
Or removed. We need somebody else here in Utah. So this is all coming to a head right now, I would say.
So would this have been one of the pieces of what we're about to see as immigration? Well, I guess this was a bill last year. I just wonder if this is one of the victories that was going to be sought for as we go forward. That's happening early, I guess we'd say it that way, versus the other stuff that they want to do, whether it's executive orders, you put back in place Remain in Mexico, you finish the wall, all this stuff that's going to be in the big, beautiful bill. I'm using air quotes as we go forward. I don't think this.
They'll count it as a victory lap, but it doesn't take away anything from that. And I think it's smart to do it separate because Democrats seem to be okay with voting for this thing, but wouldn't be okay if it was included in a bigger omnibus bill full of immigration reform.
Yeah, and I'm just really curious to see how this unfolds, whether they do one bill or two. Immigration seems to have so many moving pieces as well, just like taxes. I'm thinking out loud here of talking myself into a two-bill approach, but we'll have to wait and see, how it goes. All right, coming up on Inside Sources, a funding dispute between the United States and the World Anti-Doping Agency, known as WADA, is worsening after the agency decided to remove the U.S. from its board. How is that going to affect the 2034 Olympics in Salt Lake City? It's an important topic for us. We're going to get back to it after the break.
The best parts of KSL News Radio are so easy to use in the car. Catch the biggest stories affecting Utah's communities throughout the morning. If you miss a newscast, the next one is just a few minutes away. Plus, we have traffic updates every 10 minutes on the 9s like clockwork. We try to make it easy for your commute, mornings and afternoons. Rely on KSL News Radio.
You know that feeling? The weather starts getting colder, so you go down to check out the furnace and you look around and think, what am I even looking at? Because you don't know how these things work with all the lights and wires and pipey things. And then you think, I bet those technicians at Whipple went to school for this. Shouldn't they be here looking at my furnace? Whipple that away. Knowing what to look for on your furnace tune-up is my job. Make your problem my problem. Whipple Service Champions.
Visit whipplethataway.com for our current special offers.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. 4 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, Performance Toyota, and Ford Truck Country. All dedicated to delivering you the best auto experience anywhere. Looking for your first car? Maybe you want rugged power or the stylish ride of your dreams. New or used. See it all at PerformanceBountiful.com. PerformanceBountiful.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $38.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional detail.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
You wouldn't know it, but most financial advisors are put in a box. I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want to provide you a little insight about financial advisors. Most financial advisors have to sell what their company requires them to sell, and many advisors have to only adhere to what's called a suitability standard. A suitability standard is a limited standard of care, not requiring what's sold to be best just suitable. Advisors with this loose standard often have limited investment and product selection. Trajan Wealth is held to a fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard of care in the advisory business. And that's just one of the many reasons we have billions of dollars under our care and attract clients from other advisors. Raise your standards today and call Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Managing today's uncertainty can be overwhelming. We crave security, and it's uncomfortable when we sense a lack of control over our lives. Develop a routine for a more balanced lifestyle with healthy habits and fun. Focus on what you can control, even if it's little things, like a before-bedtime ritual.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Rusty Cannon. New developments today in the funding dispute between the United States and the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA. Not New York person saying water, but
That's right.
just WADA. Yep. The New York Times reports that a decision to withhold funding to WADA could affect the International Olympic Committee's decision to award the 2034 Olympics to Salt Lake City. And the interesting thing is, from my understanding, this is already a done deal.
Yeah.
And the contract's been signed. Utah delegation went to Paris. They signed the documents. There was some issues. Last minute issues, and they were trying to put pressure on the Utah delegation to actually go to our members of Congress and change this law. There was an issue where we were going to withhold funding from WADA, and first off, we made it okay for athletes in the United States to actually pursue cases against the IOC if there were some doping issues in other parts of the world. So if you have an Olympics and you're competing in another country and there's some issues, and in fact, I'll give one example from the New York Times article. One of WADA's chief missions is that it's supposed to step in and hold athletes accountable when their own countries fail to do so. So which that's China and Russia, all right? They don't hold their athletes accountable because they are the sponsors of the cheating. In April, the New York Times and a German television network, ARD, reported that WADA had secretly cleared 23 elite Chinese swimmers in 2021 of doping after they had all tested positive for similarly low levels of a drug that helps athletes train harder and recover quickly. And they said it was in our food. We didn't know.
Yes, all 23 miraculously got it from hotel food. Yes.
WADA had accepted a Chinese government explanation that the swimmers had likely unwillingly ingested the drug, a prescription heart medication, through food they ate at a hotel. And who hasn't been to a
every
hotel
time I go to In-N-Out Burger, that's likely in my
where
burger.
this heart medication is in your burger.
Oh, yeah.
A scenario independent experts found just completely implausible. And so the United States was ticked about this and wanted to rectify it. And so they could actually have the U.S. athletes bring lawsuits against the IOC and against WADA.
Yeah, so the Biden administration and the United States, obviously, has held back funding to the agency. They've lost their faith in the ability to guard against the use of banned performance-enhancing drugs, like the case we just talked about. And this decision by the Biden administration is a big blow. We are the largest funder of, it's obviously a small part of our budget, but I think it's somewhere around $3 to $4 million that we were slated to give them as annual funding towards their budget, which I believe is around $50 million or so per year. $52 million in 2024, going to $57.5 million this year. They withheld it. So WADA turned around and said, well, if you don't pay your dues, you can't be on the board. And they booted the U.S. person, I assume it's one person, off of the board, and then have now mentioned that it is possible that this puts in, risk or danger of the United States not being able to participate in future Olympics. And as we know, Adam, we have the 2028 LA Summer Olympics coming and the Salt Lake 2034 Winter Olympics coming. So this is kind of an issue at this point where we're going to need to sort this out. I wonder how much of it is bluster. Obviously, 2028 is still a few years away, and certainly 2034 is a lot of years away. But things are ratcheting up to where nobody's backing down at this point. Now, it'll then turn over to the Trump administration, obviously, in short order. The Trump administration has been adverse to WADA in the past.
I feel like they've been more outspoken and more hardcore than the Biden administration.
Yeah, which I was kind of surprised the Biden administration did this, but to their credit, great. I mean, this is our tax money. We should demand accountability. Why would we continue to fund them? If you're going to believe a story like that Chinese swimmer story, WADA, come on. I mean, obviously it is a lie. Obviously you brushed it over. Something needs to be done about that, and we need it cleaned up. It isn't right. And here we are, where they're now kicking our member off the board.
So I don't know what's going to happen with Salt Lake. I can't imagine, Rusty, that the IOC is going to actually cancel any of these games because of what the United States is doing. And I'll give you a reason for that. It used to be that you'd have multiple cities, multiple countries bidding on these games, and it was a huge deal. And it is a huge deal. It's a big deal for your city. That is not the case anymore. The United States is putting forward, one name, and it's usually because they have one bid.
Yeah.
It's not multiple cities bidding for these games anymore. And they're not going to stick with this same way they've always done it, where it's a completely new city, and for you to repeat is just this crazy cool thing. It's going to be, in the future, a rotating basis. You're going to have 3 or 4 cities that are going to host it every 20 years. And it's going to just rotate between those cities. And maybe if it does 3, they'll have this one extra city. It'll be a new city. This 4th one will be new every 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be rotating. And so if you take these cities in the United States out of the rotation, I really think it's going to be very difficult for other cities to afford what it takes to put on the games. We can afford it now, especially because we already have all of the venues.
Yeah.
But a new city, Sochi sunk 12 to 44, I think it was $44 billion into building it up for the games.
Yeah.
And no cities aren't going to want to do that unless you live in a dictatorship like some of these places.
Exactly. So Dr. Gupta, he has been the U.S. person on the executive committee as part of the administration. He sits on WADA's executive committee for the United States. He's been warning WADA for weeks that he was going to withhold this U.S. funding if they refused to go along with what everyone wants to restore confidence in their ability to police the sports. His chief demand was that they submit to an outside audit of his operations. He also said that WADA needed to drop a defamation lawsuit it filed against American anti-doping authorities who have accused WADA of covering up the positive tests, and he wanted proof that an ethics complaint filed against him that appeared designed to obviously have him kicked off WADA's executive committee was dropped. They had a bunch of back and forth meetings, I believe just a few weeks ago. They didn't go along with it, and so we, true to our word, just said, all right, we're not sending the check.
Good for Dr. Gupta.
Yeah.
These are basic requests that WADA should have no problem conforming to if they really haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying we're going to accuse people, and if you haven't done anything wrong, then you have no problem showing. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But these are basic things. Hey, let's have an independent audit of these results. Sure. And you remember the doping scandal in Russia. They made a Netflix special about it that was fascinating.
I watched that, yeah.
And it was their entire government had built an FSB, a secret service, Russian secret service, like a KGB building behind where they do all the doping testing.
Yeah.
And they would take the test from these tamper-proof containers where they had done urine samples, and they would stick them through the outlets of the building, and they were collected by FSB agents, and that they had figured out how to tamper with the tamper-proof bottles and switched the samples. And this doesn't come out until after the Olympic Games. And we know all of this stuff is happening and that countries are trying to cover it up, and we're doing nothing about it. Yeah. That seems crazy to me, Rusty.
Absolutely crazy. So an Olympic official told a White House official that failure to pay U.S. dues could affect the country's ability to host or participate in the Olympic Games, according to people familiar with the exchange, and spoke out about this. The White House, in response, researched what fallout the country could face for not paying and concluded that it could mean that losing out on hosting the 2034 Olympics. But the White House decided the questions about WADA's credibility were so great that it needed to move forward with withholding the money, according to some people who were briefed on the matter. So essentially, this is a little bit of brinkmanship, and we're both headed in the same direction, a head-on collision here, and this is going to take some time to sort out.
I really hope it doesn't come to losing the Olympics over something like this. Personally, I just can't see it, so I don't think it will, but obviously I don't know what's happening behind the scenes in this, and hopefully we can get more clarity from the state or from the U.S. Olympic Committee down the road. And let's see, we're going to follow this closely, though, because I think we need to keep talking about this as more information unfolds. Next on Inside Sources, we're going to continue our coverage of new elected officials. After the break, we're going to chat with the new surveyor in Salt Lake County to find out what the office actually does.
It'll be good.
Stay with us.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. KSL's top local story this hour, Jimmy Carter has made his final trip home to Georgia. His casket was flown to Fort Benning after this morning's state funeral in Washington. Ted Mondale read a eulogy written by his late father, Jimmy Carter's Vice President, Walter Mondale.
Today we join in sadness to honor our dear friend, President Carter, for his extraordinary years of principled and decent leadership and his courageous commitment to civil rights and human rights.
5 living presidents attended the funeral. President Carter will now be buried next to his wife, Rosalind Carter, as the sun sets this evening. Utahns honored President Carter this morning. They raised a wall they were planning to build in his honor. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The lumber used to build the wall is covered in messages written with different colored markers, all of them conveying the same message. Thank you. The Habitat for Humanity Greater Salt Lake area is honoring the late president by using this lumber in one of their next builds. President Jimmy Carter spent decades of his life advocating for the organization and personally worked on almost 4,500 homes.
The local organization also created a Carter Legacy Fund for people who would like to donate in his memory. Coming up, no snow in the forecast, at least for the next day or so. KSL weather is coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
If you find yourself avoiding family photos or feeling self-conscious among friends because of your smile, you're not alone. Many people face these challenges due to missing or broken teeth or painful dentures. But there's hope. Rediscover the joy of a full, healthy smile with Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner. At Stubbs Dental, they deeply understand the emotional impact of missing teeth. It's not just about your smile. It's about feeling confident and embracing life fully. Their team of experts transform lives with dental implants, one beautiful smile at a time. Picture yourself not just looking, but feeling your best, confidently participating in family photos and laughing freely with friends. Join the thousands of people who have trusted Stubbs Dental for their dental implants, rediscovering not just their smile, but their self-confidence. And the best part, finding out if you're eligible for dental implants is easy. Visit StubbsDental.com, and in just 60 seconds, you could be on your way to a life-changing smile. That's StubbsDental.com.
Did you know 96% of Americans lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income? And it's because they claim their benefits at the wrong time. Don't lose $111,000 in Social Security income that's rightfully yours. Learn how you could wring every nickel out of your benefits on Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 102.7.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for only $38.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. Here's Ricky Meese.
Delays have cleared out on northbound I-15 through Davis County, but we do have a new accident there. It's northbound I-15 by Shepherd Lane in Farmington, and it's been moved to the side of the road, so no delay. Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account, plus continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL weather forecast, we're headed down to 22 degrees tonight. Tomorrow, Friday, it's going to be sunny, cloudy, 38 degrees. The chance of snow comes Saturday, maybe an inch or two on the valley floor. Right now, 37 in Salt Lake City. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm your co-host, Rusty Cannon, here with Adam Gardner. And Adam, as you know, over the last few weeks, we've been interviewing new elected officials. And we're excited to have another one here with us in the studio. There's an office within county government you might not be too familiar with, the county surveyor. In Salt Lake County, voters elected a new surveyor in the last election, and he has just taken office. Brad, I assume you go by Brad, not Bradley.
Yeah, I do go by Brad, yes, thank you.
Brad, welcome. Brad Park, new Salt Lake County surveyor. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm sure the question on everybody's mind, and I'm sure you get this, what does the county surveyor do?
Yeah, I was asked that just a few times through my my last year of running for this office. So the county surveyor, by statute, we protect and maintain the public land survey system. So that is a system of monuments that all real property boundaries rely on here in Salt Lake County. So there's about 23,000 of those that my office helps to maintain and protect and keep the location set.
So when you say monuments, you're not talking about a monument of George Washington or something. This is
correct.
Explain
These
what a monument is.
Survey monuments. So these are the survey monuments that are typically found out in roadways. So they're little brass discs, sometimes original sandstones or 4x4 wooden posts that were originally set, but the location of those monuments has been perpetuated over time. And all boundaries, the center lines of your roads, your home address, your property boundaries, those all rely on those survey monuments. If you think about the amount of construction that happens here in the 23 municipalities in Salt Lake County and UDOT alone, we are very busy protecting the location of those monuments. They're jeopardized every single day.
So anytime there's like construction going on a road, how do you get notified? Like, so you sit in on like a planning session, or you just say, "Hey, here's where the monuments are."
So yeah,
that's
the big part of what my job is getting out with all the cities and the different municipalities and UDOT to inform them and educate them about the importance of those survey monuments. So we are out constantly educating folks, contractors. We attend the 811 Blue Stake Conference every year to educate them about the importance of those survey monuments. By state law, anytime somebody's doing work within 30 feet of one of those monuments, they need to pull a permit out of our from our office, and then we go out and protect the location of that monument. They can do the work around the monument, and then if that monument doesn't get disturbed, then they get a little bit of money back, and it keeps the protection of that monument and the property boundaries in place.
Okay, so how I assume they're going to dig up a road or something like that. Your team goes out and spray paints around it and says, "Hey, don't touch this."
Yeah, so we go out, we get an observation on it. So we use survey equipment to get an accurate observation on where that monument exists on the ground in the real world. And then then we go out and verify that monument location is still there once the construction's done, or if they need to take it out for any reason, they can remove that monument, and then we'll go out and guide them where to put that monument back in place.
Okay, so that was going to be my second question. Do they sometimes either accidentally or just say, "Hey, listen, I got to move this"?
Yeah, absolutely. They can move it, and if they need to put something in the way where we can't physically put that back in, then we'll put a monument to reference where that original location was, and that becomes kind of the new reference monument or a witness corner to where that monument location was.
Okay, so I got a question.
Sure.
What happens? Let's just say all of them are destroyed. Like, we're in a digital age now. It seems like back in the day, surveyors, would go out, and they still do this. Surveyors go out and they survey property. But if those things don't exist, does it exist digitally? Do we
So
have
yeah,
all
we
that
have
information
we
digitally?
have digital locations. So we have coordinates, GPS coordinates, or mapping coordinates for where those are. But that's just a mapping system. The Supreme Court has come out and ruled that the actual physical location of that monument is what determines where property boundaries are.
Oh,
so the physical location of that monument trumps what those coordinates are. When it comes to the rules of land law, your coordinates are your lowest level of lowest level of reliance when it comes to the survey monuments.
Well, and when I was I served as Salt Lake County recorder for like a day and a half.
Yeah.
And while I was there, it was really interesting because one of the biggest disputes. Look, when you're dealing with people's property, people get heated. I don't.
Yes.
So we had 45 employees in my office, and most everybody was awesome, but we had to put up security in our office because you'd have people throw stuff at our customer service folks over boundary issues of their property. So when we're messing with people's real property boundaries, it's a big deal, and we need to make sure we get it right. So it's important that counties and government invest in protecting your property. This is where it kind of starts, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we are the foundation for the county's tax system for the properties here in the county.
So it starts right with you.
Starts right with us.
So if I got a dispute with my neighbor over my fence, do you guys handle that, or is that somebody else? You guys just deal with the monuments?
we just deal with the monuments themselves. We, as a government entity, we can't get involved in civil property boundary issues. We can point them in the right direction. We can guide them to, you would go get a private survey done to help resolve your boundary issues. But yeah, our office doesn't do that.
Do they use your monument system?
They do use our monument system. Yeah, so they would use our monument system, and then once they do their survey work by law, they need to file that record in our office. So we're also the record repository.
Oh, okay.
So anytime survey work is done here in the county and they determine a property boundary, by state statute, they need to file that record with the county surveyor's office, and we take that record, we make that available and free to the public to then go use. So if there's ever been a survey done post-1987 when the Filing Act came into place, then that would be filed in our office, and we put that on our website, and people can go out, click on their property, and if there was a survey done, we put it out, and it's available for them to pull that record down and print it and use it however they may.
So along the lines of Adam's earlier question, let's just say that all of these are gone. Somehow they're just gone. All of them wiped off, the entire area here. Are we in real trouble?
That's why the county surveyor exists, so we don't lose all those monuments.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to keep the location of those physical monuments in place.
But if you had one left, could you then rebuild the whole system?
That's a good question.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like if you had one left, would you build?
There's one very important one right on the southeast corner of South Temple.
Yeah, Temple Square.
Temple Square.
Right by the Brigham Young statue.
That is the initial point for the Salt Lake Basin Meridian. So that is the original survey monument that was set. That's where everything begins.
Interesting. And I assume it's safe.
Yes,
it'd be
safe.
tough to move it.
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
a big one. Yeah, if you ever want to go see a
it's
really
like
cool
marked.
survey,
it's
huge.
They make it like a cool thing.
Yeah, I think
to
I've seen
see.
it before.
Yes.
I didn't realize that was so critical.
That if you think about it in a grid system, that is your 0-0.
0-0.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. So what's the difference? What's the distance between monuments?
Mile. So they're 1 mile square sections. Yeah. So
and they're right down the middle of the road.
Typically,
usually.
Yeah. If you look at the way, look at the way the county's laid out. It's a grid system.
I'm going to walk down Main Street in the middle of the road.
Yeah, everyone's going to wonder what you're doing. I'm looking for monuments.
Yeah, look at a lot of the bigger intersections. If you look right in the middle of those big intersections, you'll see almost looks like a water valve, but maybe just a little bit bigger. Typically, underneath those lids is you're going to be your survey monument.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I'm picturing like a golden thing, or a sandstone thing.
Yeah,
you're saying it's like
they're down underground.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually produce our own monuments. So we pour the new ones as old ones get wiped out, or we find that there's issues with them. We produce our own monuments and we go set new ones.
Do you make them pretty?
Yeah, very pretty.
Is
Absolutely.
it like a little seal?
4-inch brass cap with our name on there, and then we stamp the location of it.
Interesting.
Now my libertarian brain is like, you could sponsor these things, and you want to, we could save some taxpayer dollars having individuals put
Once
their names
every 20
on
years, someone might see your logo. Yes. Well, we appreciate you coming in. It's really neat to hear about this. This is obviously a critical part of our system, and we appreciate you doing. Thank you for running, first of all, and being willing to do that. And wish you best of luck.
Absolutely. I'm excited to serve the great residents here in Salt Lake County. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. All right, in our final segment on today's Inside Sources, we're going to talk about fact-checking in social media. There was a big deal yesterday. Meta, or Facebook, is ending its so-called fact-checking program. And what does that mean for you? Stay with us.
Do you have any idea how hard your heating system has to work when your old windows let the cold air seep in? Your energy bill is going through the roof. But there's an answer, and it comes from Advanced Window Products. For 38 years, they've been building state-of-the-art insulated windows and frames, and every one of them is built right here in Utah. So let me explain why it's cost-effective to call them for new windows right now. First, you'll see a significant drop in your energy bills, winter and summer, and right now, call Advanced Windows and you'll get $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane insulated glass that'll keep out the cold, and custom frames in any style, any color. Advanced Windows offers a 60-month, 0% interest payment plan, and they even offer a plan with no payment, no interest for 24 months. Plus, that $2,500 off right now. Call for a no-pressure consultation, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Join KSL News Radio this Friday at Minky Couture in Layton, 1782 Woodland Park Drive, from 11 to 1. Minky's got you covered this winter season.
Okay,
the original luxury blanket company, MinkyCouture.com.
For all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history
Cherie Warren disappeared.
are now together for free at KSLPodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files. Season 2, Justice for Joyce. And Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at KSLPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $38.99.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Happening now, President Biden is speaking about the massive California wildfires. Let's listen in.
The lines that they carried energy were going to be blown down and spark additional fires. But the Cal Fire, when it did that, it cut off the ability to generate pumping the water. That's what caused the lack of water in these hydrants. And so Cal Fire is bringing in generators to get these pumps up and working again so that there's no longer a shortage of water coming out of these hydrants. I'm also surging all federal resources possible to Southern California, including 400 additional federal firefighters, over 30 firefighting helicopters and planes, federally supplied, firefighting planes and helicopters, and 8 Department of Defense C-130s that are equipped to suppress wildfires. Today, the Secretary of Defense also authorized 500 wildfire ground clearing personnel from the Defense Department. And I've directed the department to continue working with Governor Newsom to identify additional resources that can be provided for public safety and security. And we've secured additional firefighters and firefighting aircraft from our ally in Canada as well. I also want everyone in Southern California to know we're going to keep at it. We're sticking with this. We expect there may be a temporary break in the winds, but in some areas the winds are likely to continue well into next week. And so we're going to continue to sending everything, literally, every resource we can find that's appropriate to help the governor and the first responders. Second, we're focused on helping people who have been displaced or in many cases lost everything. You reported on, you've seen the homes just burned to the ground, whole areas burned to the ground, large areas. They've been displaced and they've lost everything. As I said, since the fire started, FEMA has been working with the state to help residents get shelter, groceries, prescriptions, and other critical goods like baby formula. We're also sent FEMA Director Criswell to Los Angeles to manage our response on the ground. She was supposed to be on this call, but we have the deputy here because she is out in the field with the governor right now, surveying what's going on. Let me close with a message to the people of Southern California. We are with you. We're not going anywhere. To the firefighters and first responders, you are heroes. Many of these firefighters are out there risking their lives, and some, well, I won't go beyond that, but risking their lives, and while their own homes are in danger, their families are in danger. To the firefighters and first responders, you really are, it's not hyperbole, you're heroes. You're genuinely heroes. And the worst, this is the most widespread, devastating fire in California's history. It's amazing. And there's nobody who understands it better than the press have been covering this on a minute-to-minute basis. And you literally have to run into the flames, these firefighters. You know, that old expression, God made man, then he made a few firefighters. Who runs into flames? You know, in doing so, you're leaving your own families and who may be in harm's way as well. So we owe you. And we're going to make sure that you get every resource you need, every possible resource you need. You know, to the families who have been impacted by this disaster, you're living through a nightmare, I know. And I promise you, we're going to help you get through this and eventually recover and rebuild. I'm going to turn it over now to the Vice President before we go on to the folks in the various cabinet positions as well as agencies that control these issues. Madam Vice President, I know you're directly affected, so you fire away. No pun intended.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. President, and also for the work that everyone around this table has been doing with the appropriate sense of urgency, because this is an urgent matter. What we have seen in California, and in particular in Southern California, is apocalyptic in terms of the nature of it and the unprecedented nature of it as well. And what we are seeing is a situation that is extremely dynamic. It is very much in play, and to some degree unpredictable, because we are literally waiting to see which way the wind blows. And I cannot praise enough the local leaders, most of whom I have talked with, and in particular our firefighters, who, as the President has said, they are working around the clock. They are working 12-hour, even longer shifts, and they are doing it with a sense of optimism, but also with an understanding of how serious this moment is and how important their work is to real lives and real people. Thousands of families have been displaced. Many of those families with young children with nowhere to go. And what we know is that this is a matter of current urgency, but this is also something that is going to have an impact for months and years to come. And on that point, I will also make note of the fact that, sadly, many insurance companies have canceled insurance for a lot of the families who have been affected and will be affected, which is only going to delay or place an added burden on their ability to recover. And I think that is an important point that must be raised, and hopefully there can be some way to address that issue, because these families, so many of them, otherwise will not have the resources to recover in any meaningful way. And many of them have lost everything. In the midst, however, of all of the trauma that has occurred, we have seen extraordinary acts of heroism I'm hearing countless stories of strangers helping strangers. People who are opening their homes where they are intact and have not had to evacuate, opening their homes to neighbors, to friends of neighbors, feeding them and providing shelter for them. And I do think that it speaks to the best of who we are as a country, which is in times of crisis, we find the heroes among us who we may not have known before, but act out of a sense of courage, but also a sense of community. And I applaud all those who are approaching this crisis with that spirit. And the bottom line is this: there are incredible heroes every day who are working right now in California on the front lines of this fire. And in particular, I want to thank the firefighters for all they are doing. They are, as the president said, putting themselves in harm's way. And they are doing the work that is about helping people who are perfect strangers to them and doing it in some of the highest moments of need that anyone could face. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Liz Sherwood-Randall.
Turn it back to me.
Okay, back to the president.
Look, I've had a chance to speak with a lot of elected officials, including the senators, some of the congresspersons in the region, as well as the vice president as well. And I want to be clear that one of the reasons I've asked this larger group to get together is because they control the very agencies that are needed from a federal level to get things done. And we're in a situation where the U.S. Forest Service Chief, Randy Moore, is here. And he's going to provide an update in the fire situation in Los Angeles and discuss how the U.S. Fire Service, the U.S. Forest Service, is assisting Los Angeles and the state of California with fighting the wildfire, including the action his team has taken to suppress new fire starts. So, Chief, why don't you fire away?
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Vice President. It's great to see you. I, too, consider California my home.
Yes.
And so it's great to be here to talk about this dramatic situation that we have. So the Forest Service and the Department of Interior are actively engaged in supporting the response to the wildfires in Southern California. And there are 4 major fires that we currently have going on.
We've just been listening to President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris speak, giving an update on the California wildfires and what the federal government is going to be doing to help aid in the effort of fighting these fires and help those that have been displaced. We have almost 200,000 folks that have been evacuated. The Department of Defense will be sending 500 fire personnel from D.C. They're going to be sending generators. It looks like we're going to be having aircraft from Canada, fire suppression aircraft from Canada, which actually kind of adds an interesting, this Trump dynamic.
Yeah, the U.S.-Canada thing.
So we're going to see some of that play out, which is awesome of Canada to be lending us some of their aircraft. The president said we're going to be giving California everything we can, shipping food, water, and even baby formula. He said, we are with you, and we're sending literally everything that we can. The vice president talked a little bit about some of these insurance policies that have been canceled. There's not a lot we can do about that, it seems, as they're exiting office. And so what's next? What did you pick up from that, Rusty?
That's an interesting point. I don't want to get too ahead of our skis here, but there will be a long period of time for this to be worked out. She mentioned insurance. I think President-elect Trump actually mentioned insurance when he was talking about this. This is going to be a very, very expensive item for insurance companies. That's why they're there, obviously. But you could see years and years of litigation over this and people trying to recover. It's nice to see them doing as much as they can. Obviously, we talked earlier about Utah sending how many cities did we list off? It was like a dozen cities sending help here from Utah to put that into place. So that's good to see.
We're going to be following the California wildfires really closely. Before we wrap up, did you know that you can listen everywhere you go with the KSL News Radio app? You can listen to our show, Utah's Morning News, BYU football and basketball games, and more. You can also get breaking news, push alerts. Text the word app to 57500 and download it for free today. Thank you so much for listening to Inside Sources. Join Leah Murray and Aaron Ryder tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. for more political discussion and analysis on Inside Sources. Next up, Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. Have a great day, everybody.